It's Michael Douglas. Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And, the internet today, especially YouTube, and all of social media is flooded with a lot of well-wishing and tributes surrounding the death of the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne. And, while I really haven't done a formal kind of message in that regard, I do want to talk about his influences, particularly the influence of the band Black Sabbath. See you on the inside. So this episode on Dr. Pundit will focus on 4 alternative rock bands that I don't think would have existed without Black Sabbath, or rather the influence of that band. Black Sabbath helped pioneer heavy metal, and that doesn't come with any dispute. But hearing the band's influence on bands such as Metallica, Judas Priest, and others is like spotting the fingerprints of, say, Robert Johnson on anyone playing Delta blues, for example. But Black Sabbath also had a profound influence on another rock subgenre, alternative rock. Metallica's James Hetfield once said, "Sabbath got me started on that evil-sounding shit, and it stuck with me." He wasn't the only one. The Smashing Pumpkins. With the alternative rock boom in the early 1990s, it's hard to believe it's been over 30 years, many focused on the band's roots, say, in punk music 10 to 15 years earlier. The whole point of alternative was becoming something out of the mainstream. It was like that was the sole criterion. Eventually, these groups sold enough records to become mainstream, but initially, alt-rock was largely reactionary. But listening to bands like Smashing Pumpkins, you can't ignore Billy Corgan's progressive rock and heavy metal influences. And his anthems, or rather the anthems of the band Smashing Pumpkins, were built with heavy riffs. He probably wouldn't get there without the riff lord Tommy Iommi. When Rage Against the Machine dropped Bomb Track about 23 years ago, 1992 or so, it helped spawn basically an entire generation of rap metal hybrids. But a lot of those hybrids paled in comparison to this particular band. And minus the rap skills of Zach De La Rocha and the scratch DJ noises of Tom Morello, the others basically failed to reach the kind of power of the track, say, Guerrilla Radio. And you don't need to be guided by the lights of, say, Noam Chomsky, or have any idea of what Zach De La Rocha is rapping about to appreciate this band, I think. It's hard to imagine the DJ constructing riffs outside of the influence of tracks such as War Pigs or Paranoid, Faith No More. Now, this band had multiple singers before the most famous of those, Mike Patton. Believe it or not, they included Courtney Love, the widow of Kurt Cobain. But it wasn't until Patton, one of the best voices, I think, in his generation, and he pretty much kind of came about again in the early 90s, that the band really hit its commercial zenith. Now, the band's first album with Mike Patton, The Real Thing, was most known for the pop hit, believe it or not, hit number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, Epic. But if you check out this band's cover of War Pigs, for example, they're obviously paying homage. The guitarist of the band plays it kind of in a sped up version, true to Tommy Iommi's frantic guitar solos in the track, while the drummer of the band and the bassist echo Bill Ward, Geezer Butler. I think few possess the vocal prowess required to cover Ozzy Osbourne. I think Mike Patton was one of those voices.
Gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction.
And if you haven't heard this particular band, I would definitely check out that album, The Real Thing, because that's the one that boosted this band out into the public consciousness. And that's the first time I ever heard of this band, Faith No More. Finally, Alice in Chains. This was one of the gloomiest, I think, grunge bands to emerge from Seattle. Most vocal harmonies are meant to sweeten the melody, but the band's members, Lane Staley, Jerry Cantrell, decided to opt for more sinister vocals. And meanwhile, Cantrell's bleak grunge stylings share a blueprint with, say, the Bluish Tinge by Iommi in Black Sabbath. And the gritty music video for Man in the Box, for example, shifted pop culture and helped clear the way for fellow alternative rock acts which blended heavy metal with the angst of Gen X, my generation, 30-something years ago. And the title track to the album Dirt features the kind of sluggish doom groove that Black Sabbath had perfected in Birmingham, England. So I think a quite fitting tribute, at least taking the tack, okay, Ozzy Osbourne belonged to Black Sabbath. What bands did I feel got a huge influence from Black Sabbath? And these are 4 bands that I think really did. Faith No More, Smashing Pumpkins, Alice in Chains, and Rage Against the Machine. And these are a lot of bands that I think by the time I was in medical school, so between 90 and 94, were really on my radar. And just another way of thanking Ozzy Osbourne for his service to this genre of rock music. I'm Michael Douglas. If you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And as the late great Barry White always used to say, let the music play. And I'll see you on the next episode.